Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Russell Matthews and I'm back with another Canadian benefit update for you. Just last week we talked about the new $1,000 benefit that residents of BC should be able to apply for even if they are on CRB currently. We all know about the benefits that were national, that's the CERB from before, the Emergency Response Benefit, the CRB, the Canada Recovery Benefit, and the CRSB and the CRCB. These are all national benefits that are distributed to everybody in Canada. But you may not know what the provincial governments are doing with their money to help support you throughout this pandemic. That's why it's important to keep a close eye on all of the provinces and all of the funding that they're putting towards these benefits and sort of compare and contrast them to see what each government is doing well and what each province could improve on. And when I started talking about the additional funding that people in BC were getting, people in other provinces were like, man, I wish we were there. We need to have something like that in Ontario or any other province or territory. And so just yesterday, the Ontario government released their new budget. And inside, there's tons of new supports for people who live in Ontario. But whether or not these changes stack up to what other provinces are doing is a different question. So in today's video, we're going to take a closer look at these new benefits that can most affect just regular people working, not businesses, not big, huge nonprofit charities, you, the individual person who lives in Ontario. And if you're not an Ontario resident, you're still going to want to stick around to see what this government is doing so you can see if this is something that should be implemented in your province. And we're also going to compare and contrast along the way to talk about how different provinces are handling this. But before we get too deep into it, if you're new to the channel, hey, how's it going? It's nice to meet you. My name is Russell, and on this channel, I post videos about Canadians and their money, with the overall goal of getting information to Canadians as quickly as possible and as accurately as possible so that they can set themselves up to live a more financially stable future. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. And while you're down there, click that like button, because when you do, it spreads the video to hundreds of people who could be looking for this information, and I'd really appreciate your support in growing this sort of channel. Thanks so much for doing that. Now let's dive into this new Ontario budget to find out what is in store for you. So inside of this new budget from the Ontario government, there's a ton of new information, but I'm going to distill it down just for you and the benefits that will be most likely to affect you or somebody you know. And we've zoomed in here on this Ontario budget, and the first section we're going to talk about is helping parents with COVID-19 costs. And it says, whether students are attending school in person, online, or a mix of both, parents are facing additional costs in the form of technology, childcare, and new activities for their children in a COVID-19 world. The government cannot take away the stress and pressures of COVID-19, but it can provide a measure of relief with the Support for Learners initiative. That's why Ontario will once again provide parents payments of $200 per each child, aged 0 to 12, and $250 for children and youth 21 years old or younger with special needs. And financial supports will be provided directly to the parents to help support their children's learning this year, and overall this investment could provide learners with access to key educational resources like workbooks, school supplies, and technology. And this last section down here is just talking about, oh, we did give you money back in March and we're going to give it to you again. They never want you to forget when they send you some money. So there are a couple main points from this that we should remember. First of all, that's $200 per child, and that is stackable. So if you have 3 children, that would be $600 that you're going to get from this additional payment. And while this $200 is good, or the $250 if it's a child with special needs, I think that it really doesn't get close to covering the realistic cost of having a child have to do school from home. If you're a parent, you'll know there's a multitude of things you need to buy for your kids to go to school. There's books, there's school supplies, there's new technology. More and more of these programs are requiring children to do projects that need higher and higher quality laptops or computers, so it can add up pretty quickly. And that's not to mention the added internet costs. So many parents have had to upgrade their internet to provide for multiple children all streaming and all having online video calls at the same time. But while this money doesn't add up to all of the extra costs, it is definitely appreciated and it's better than nothing. One positive is that this money seems to be a payment as opposed to a tax credit. There are tons of benefits inside of this budget that are only tax credits, and you'd only see the benefit from that come April 2020 or April 2021 when your next tax season is. While it's essentially the same thing, either money now or money later at tax time, it does feel better to have it be a payment as opposed to a tax credit, because so many Canadians are struggling right now and they need the money now, as opposed to some sort of abstract amount that is being taken away from this bill, that tax bill that they're going to have to pay anyways. This next section of the bill is called Helping Seniors Make Their Homes Safer, and the information really starts down here. And it says Ontario is proposing the new Seniors Home Safety Tax Credit for the 2021 taxation year to help seniors and intergenerational families who have seniors living with them make their homes safer and more accessible. The proposed new personal income tax credit would support seniors regardless of their incomes and whether they owe income tax for 2021. The seniors' home safety tax credit would be up to worth 25% of $10,000 in eligible expenses, so that's a maximum credit of $2,500, and that includes any of these sort of safety installations that you could include in your home. So the way that will work is you can spend up to $10,000 on these home upgrades that make it safer for seniors inside the home, and you will get 25% of that back as a tax credit subtracted from your taxes come tax time. And I think this benefit makes sense to implement right now. We've seen all of these senior homes struggling with COVID, and they were struggling before as well with very low vacancy. There weren't enough places for seniors to go for the kind of care that they need. So it looks like we were leaning more and more to altering houses to make them a better place for seniors to live. And with all the problems we're seeing in these seniors retirement homes, we're seeing more and more families sort of bring in their aging parents to live in their house. So it's nice to see that this can be applied to that too. If you have a senior relative living in your house, you on your taxes can apply to do this installation. With that being said, this isn't really a benefit because you do have to spend money to get 25% of that money back. So it really is only a benefit if you were planning on making these additions anyways. But perhaps this will incentivize you to make your home more safe for that senior relative, or if you are a senior, upgrading your own home. And the last area that I wanted to take a closer look at is the tourism tax credit that's being implemented. Here's some information on it. It says the government says it's exploring ways to create a tax credit of up to 20% of the expenses for visiting destinations in Ontario. It says it wants to make 2021 the year of the Ontario staycation. There will also be a new $100 million community building fund to support tourism, cultural, and sports organizations, and a one-time $25 million infusion to help cultural institutions. So it's clear that this is the least fleshed out benefit that they're including in here. There's not a lot of details on how this is going to work, and it's sort of just a broad 20% of expenses for visiting destinations in Ontario. It'll be interesting to see how they determine whether or not you'll be eligible for some of your expenses for this credit. And to be honest, it raises more questions than it answers. Like, are you going to be able to claim some of your gas money if you're driving to a city that's like in rural northern Ontario and trying to get away for a week? Would it cover a cottage rental in the summer? These are all questions that we have to keep asking and keep our eyes on for when these details come out. And of course, these benefits that we've just taken a look at aren't the entire picture of what was included in this budget. There's a whole lot more inside of it, but I just thought that these were the ones that would be most impactful for you. Well, since the beginning of the pandemic, each province has responded to this a little bit differently. In BC, we saw that one-time payment of $1,000, and there was the additional renter's benefit of $500 to help people out who were struggling to pay rent. In Alberta, a benefit of around $1,200 was created for the people who were falling through the cracks of the CRB. If they weren't eligible for that, they could be eligible for this provincial benefit. The same sort of thing happened in Saskatchewan, but this was $900 for a 2-week period. In Manitoba, we saw this risk recognition program that gave money to people who were working in the front lines at some of the most risky times during this pandemic. In Quebec, people who didn't qualify for the CERB or any of the federal benefits were able to receive just under $600 a week. In New Brunswick, people got an additional $900 payment to help bridge the gap between any of the federal benefits, while in Nova Scotia, they just got an additional $50 per payment if they were already on the income assistance program. And the other provinces and territories, PEI, New Brunswick, Yukon, Northwest Territories, Nunavut, they all had sort of similar benefits, but a little bit different for each province. So we're seeing all kinds of different programs across each different province, and they're all a little bit different and a little bit tailored for that individual province's unique situation. But it does seem that Manitoba and Ontario have been the least likely to actually give out money to its residents because I guess they're sort of depending on the federal benefits to do this while they're focusing on different areas, like in Ontario reducing the electricity costs and other kind of less visible things like this. But I want to know what you have to say about all this. How does your province stack up compared to the other ones? And are you totally satisfied with what your provincial government and what the federal government has given to you so far? I think it'll be so interesting to keep an eye on this as we enter this second wave of COVID. And I think it'll scale depending on how poorly we do at managing this virus. If we see an absolute explosion of cases, who knows, maybe more benefits will be announced as more businesses are forced to shut down. But no matter what you think about it, let me know in the comments down below. And while you're down there, make sure to hit that like button and turn it blue, because just one free click of that button helps spread this video and this channel to more people who could benefit from the information. And of course, if you haven't already done so, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. I'm bringing updates like this all the time, so you're bound to learn something that could really help you and your family out. And with all of that said, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I really hope hope this video has helped you out in getting a better understanding of this new Ontario budget, but then also comparing it to the other provinces. And with that said, I'll see you guys next time.